Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Must be going to be cloudy out there because it's not light yet. Here's the coffee cup for today. So, our theme today and tomorrow is to be realistic and then be unrealistic. So, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, when we start out, we got to be realistic. And in that sense, the new modem is right over there and it's getting installed this morning. In that sense, being realistic means that you need to actually face your problems and not ignore them. One of the things that we do all the time is we have something that we know we need to address, but instead we go take care of all kinds of other things. Instead of focusing on what really needs to be dealt with, we go take care of other people's problems, or we go shopping, or we go to the bar, or we go whatever. We don't take a look and see what's really going on. If your problem is finances, credit card debt, or debt, first thing to do is to face it, is to add up all the debt and to take a look at where you're at, what your payments are, what it's costing you, to really take a look at what you're doing and to look at your budget. If your problem is weight, one of the first things to do is to face it, to get on that scale and see what it actually says, and to get in front of a mirror and see what you actually look at, to be realistic and face what's going on, to assess all of the areas that you have. Now, what is the thing that we typically do when we're ignoring a problem? We make it worse than it is, right? A lot of times in our head, we think the problem is actually a lot worse than it truly is. And when we really stop and take a look at it, we realize that the problem is not that bad. So realistic isn't just facing the problem, it's facing how really significant the problem actually is. Okay, do you want to lose weight? Okay, so how much do you really need to lose and by when? 20 pounds by the end of August, 30 pounds by the end of August. Actually face that problem, but don't make it worse than it is, which a lot of times when we ignore a problem like finances, we think of it as this giant thing that isn't solvable. When in actuality, when we sit down and take a look at it and really take a look at the issue, we find out that maybe it's not that bad and maybe we can get our arms wrapped around it. As we sit down and be realistic also, you've got to look at what do you have? What are the assets that you do have? Who do you have in your life? What do you have around you? What type of education do you have? What type of work background do you have? How many of you have a library card? How many of you even know what a library card is? We take for granted that the knowledge of the world is available to us 24/7 through this device that I'm talking. There was a movie called Seven with Brad Pitt and now I can't think of his name because it's the first part of the morning. Very scary, creepy movie, but there's a scene where one of the characters goes into the New York Public Library, and the security guards that are working in the New York Public Library are sitting there playing cards. And he's reading Chaucer, and he's reading Thomas Aquinas, and he's reading Dante. And he's sitting there and he says, the knowledge of the world is sitting here at your guys' fingertips, and you're spending it playing cards. So truly assess all of the assets that you do have. Do you live in the United States of America? Do you have a college degree? Who do you know? Who do you have access to? Be realistic as to all of the assets that you do have. And why don't we do that? When we're sitting here looking at these problems, why do we ignore them? Because we're afraid, right? We're afraid of what the problem's going to be. We're afraid of our ability to handle the problem. We're afraid of all of these things. And at the end of the day, when we're afraid, we're really afraid of two things. It all comes down to the same two things. We're afraid that we're not enough and that we won't be loved. If you think about all of your fears, once you tear them down, that they're going to fall into those two categories. I'm not enough and I won't be loved. And think about those categories. I'm not enough and I won't be loved. Well, if you believe that you're not enough, are you ever actually going to be enough to accomplish any of the goals that you want to accomplish? Probably not. And thinking that you're not enough, look back at all of the different examples that we've done over the years of people from Sylvester Stallone to Walt Disney to Steve Jobs to all of these amazing, I saw a story yesterday of a lady, high school dropout, sexually assaulted, raped when she was young, had a child, had to be an exotic dancer, had to do other stuff in order to make it, ended up, this is a, typical Tony Robbins type story, ends up finding those types of technologies, self-educates herself in an area, wasn't a university, wasn't anything like that, started a YouTube video, and she now has almost 1 million followers on YouTube, started her own app, and she makes close to $50,000 a month using this app. No education, no resources, no family background, no money, no nothing, but made a choice that she was going to change her life, and now that's her reality. And now she's married, husband is involved in the business also, and looks stunning and beautiful and amazing. So if you don't believe that you're going to be able to do it, then you're not. But the way to help yourself believe that you can do it, start researching stories like that. There's story after story after story out there of people who have accomplished just amazing things with very little resources. The resource that they had is they believed in themselves. They believed that they were going to be able to do something different, and they moved forward. If you lose your job, let's say you recently got fired. Well, if you have the ability to manage your state, your response to that might be something different than if you don't have the ability to manage your state. If you don't have the ability to manage your state, you're going to be devastated. Now, everybody's going to feel that way at the beginning. But if you don't manage your state, you might feel that way for days or weeks or months. But if you do have the ability to manage your state, then you might have the ability to respond with something like, thank you, it's been time for me to start my own business anyway. Or thank you, because it's time for me to go work somewhere where I'm actually going to get paid what I should get paid. And then you go find your next opportunity. You look at it as an opportunity for advancement and not as a setback. Maybe you've been recently dumped. And if you don't manage your state, that could be something that impacts you for days, weeks, rest of your life. But if you do manage your state, that could be something where you look and you say, thank you, I'm now going to go find somebody who truly appreciates me next. That's the difference. So when you assess and be realistic, we need to face our problems. And then we need to take an assessment of what do we have. And we have every resource in the world. If you've got this thing that I'm talking to in my hand, you have access to every piece of knowledge in the world. So you never have a lack of resources, which is where most of us go. When we say that we can't get something done, most of the time we say we don't have enough time, we don't have enough education, I need to get this particular thing. What we really say is that I don't have a certain resource. Well, if you've got this device in your hand, you have every resource in the world. And the only resource that really matters in order to live the life that we want to is the resource of self-confidence and determination. That we are enough and that we will be able to go forward and we are deserving of whatever life it is that we want. So at the end of this one, 2 messages for today and tomorrow. Be realistic, and then tomorrow we're going to be unrealistic. So be realistic, face your problem, but also be realistic. No problem is bigger than you, and you have the ability to overcome anything All you have to do is make a decision that you are enough and you are worthy of it. And trust me, you are. If you're watching this, then you are. Let's have a great day out there, everybody. Let's take care of ourselves. Thanks for watching.